You see, our belief is that the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims, in their origin, these three religions are Semitic religions, and they have a common background in Father Abraham. The Jew respects Father Abraham, the Christian respects him, and the Muslim respects him, and we all claim a common heritage coming from Father Abraham. And I believe that it is the same religion. You see, whether you call it Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, to me these are not three separate religions. It is the same religion on different levels. The titles were given by man with regard to the term Judaism, because I've been asking Jews, Jewish learned men, that this word Judaism, is it to be found in the Torah? They says no. Is it in your Talmud? He says no. Is it in your Mishnah? He says no. Then say, where did you get it? Most of them are puzzled. Where did the word Judaism originate? As is Christianity, is this in the Bible? Any Bible? Does it speak that the religion preached by Jesus Christ was Christianity? No. So where does this term come from? The very first time the word Christian was used, we read in the New Testament, was at Antioch, when the enemies of the followers of Jesus, disparagingly they pointed to them, saying that these are Christians, meaning the worshippers of Christ. But Christ never heard the word Christian, and Christ never heard the word Christianity. And I go beyond and I say, Christ never heard the word Christ in his lifetime.
But didn't he say, I and the Father are one?
Yes.
And therefore, doesn't that mean in Judaism, me talking about this, but doesn't that mean that if I and the Father are one, that Spirit is immanent in me, and that therefore he would be the Christ? Or that he would acknowledge himself as being the Christ that was foreseen by the Jews? How am I doing, Mother?
Yeah. No, Christ, you see, the term Christ, it comes from the word Messiah, the Hebrew word Messiah. The Hebrew word Messiah, Arabic, Masih, is the same word, same root form, going back to the word Masaha in Hebrew and Arabic, which means one who is anointed, rubbed over, massaged. Priests and kings were anointed in consecration to their offices, like a coronation ceremony or like a gowning ceremony. So when a person was officially appointed to a certain status, he was the Messiah, the anointed one. Hebrew word Messiah, translated into Greek, Christos, from which they lopped off the os and left you with Christ.
Then what is Christ in Islam?
Yes. In Islam, we accept that Jesus was the Christ, meaning he was the one that was promised by God Almighty to come to the Jews and reform the Jews. Now, when he came, he claimed that he was the Messiah, from which we get the word Christ, through the word Christos, and from which again we get the word Christianity. But the word Christ was never heard by Jesus in his lifetime, because this is a Greek word. He said, I am the Messiah. He didn't say, I am the Christ in Greek, because he's talking to the Jews, a Jewish prophet coming to Jews, speaking that Jewish language, Hebrew or Aramaic.
He did, Aramaic, I thought.
Aramaic, yes. So while he's speaking, he's saying in his own language, is that I am the Messiah, the anointed one, the chosen one. But his people didn't recognize him. They insinuated that he was an impostor, and as such, they had him hanged on the cross. The Muslim attitude is that he was the true messenger of God, and he was the Messiah. And more than that he was born miraculously, without any male intervention, and that he gave life to the dead by God's permission, and he healed those born blind and the lepers by God's permission. So we are going further than the Jews in the acceptance of Jesus Christ.
Do you have any Jewish friends?
Yes, I do have, and I also reason with them.
Are you sure you have Jewish friends?
Yes, I do have, ma'am. I worked for Jews for a number of years, and we had fantastic relationship, ma'am. And I have addressed Jewish audiences, and they seem to respond beautifully, to my messages.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Christ in Islam, you recognize him. The Jews do not. They are still waiting that Messiah. And then where does your prophet, sir, the prophet of Islam and the Bible, come in?
Yes. You see, Muhammad came 600 years after Jesus. Jesus the Christ. 600 years after. God Almighty appointed him. And now there was a dispute going on in his own environment between the Jews and the Christians with regards to the personality of Jesus. What was his stand? What would be the stand of his followers? So he clarifies the position for us with regards to Jesus, that he was one of the mightiest messengers of God. He was the Messiah. He was born miraculously, but he was not God in human form. He is not God incarnate. And he is not the begotten Son of God.
How can you tell that from the Bible?
The Bible also tells us the very same thing. I mean, in my reading of the Christian Bible, nowhere does Jesus ever say at any time, I am God or worship me. Nowhere. There is not a single Bible among the many versions. There is not a single statement, unequivocal statement, anywhere in any Bible. But on the contrary, like you had mentioned a few minutes back, about I and my Father are one. Now people, when they read that, the Christian, now he is, I say, programmed. We are all programmed. There is no doubt about that. But we must be big enough to say, let's see if you can reprogram me. Now, the Christian has been programmed to think that when he said, I and my Father are one, which meant that he was claiming divinity, that he is God himself. We says, no, he didn't mean in that sense. Though the Jews, according to the Christian scriptures, they took exception to that statement of his. But he explains, he said, is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods, that people are even called gods in the scriptures, and you find no fault with that. Why are you taking exception to me when I say I am the Son of God? So in other words, now he was speaking in the sense that God Almighty and him, in purpose they are the same, not in omnipotence, in omniscience, or in any other or spiritual matters. He, as he says, he said, my Father is greater than I. So my Father is greater than all. He said, I can of my own self do nothing. God can do everything. He knows everything. He says, of that day, in the last day, knoweth no man, no, not the angels, not the Son, but the Father in heaven. No way does he claim equality with God. He's always a subordinate position. But now people, these statements are taken to me out of context, and a religion has been made out of it.
What about Muhammad?
Muhammad is no more than a
Messiah?
messenger. No, he is the messenger of God.
He's a messenger.
Yes, Jesus was also a messenger, but he was somebody that the Jews were waiting for, to liberate them from the Roman bondage, to free them. He had come to do a spiritual job of work. As he told Pilate, Pontius Pilate, he says, my kingdom is not of this world. In other words, mine is a spiritual kingdom. I want to elevate these people spiritually. The people of the time, naturally being under bondage, under Roman rule, they wanted somebody, a physical liberator, making them masters of the world. So the man was not prepared to do that. So the Jews as a people, they had rejected him. But we feel